Hi everyone, welcome to the Dubai Airshow 2025. We've escaped the stifling heat and we're in a very air-conditioned room. So it's nice to be joined by Joel Klooster from Viasat, who's going to talk to us a little bit more about the work that they're doing in the market as well and hear some industry insights. So Joel, thank you so much for joining me. I understand it's been quite a busy day so far for you on day
Sure
one.
has, yeah.
But could you start by telling our audience then, what then are the key priorities for this week? How much do they align with your broader aviation strategy for the next couple of years?
I think it's just great to be here in such a critical aviation hub, both for traditional commercial aviation, but also the new advanced air mobility, electric vertical takeoff and landing, UAVs, cargo drones. There's so much going on here, so many manufacturers, so many stakeholders across the industry, and we're here talking a lot about our safety products, our L-band communications for traditional aviation, but also what we're doing in the advanced air mobility space with the emerging UAV market in the commercial space.
Perfect, and it leads me nicely into the next question as well. Is that Dubai, Middle East? There's a lot of focus on Saudi Arabia as well for that too. So, yeah. How does the Middle East then fit into Viasat's global plans as well?
I think it's just such a critical transportation hub with so many well-known, well-respected and large airlines here in the region. But then also, we have a lot of these advanced new entrants into the UAV market who are demonstrating their capabilities here. You see a lot in this region about the expansion of new advanced air mobilities. And, I think it's just a great opportunity to show what the capabilities are for satellite communications in this industry.
Excellent. And while we're on that point as well, could you sort of tell our audience again, what differentiates you from maybe other connectivity providers? Because that connectivity is a really important jigsaw for advanced mobility, and I guess for airline and aviation.
Sure. Well, at Viasat and prior to that, Inmarsat, we've been providing critical safety communications via our L-band satellite network for over 30 years now. Starting with trans-Pacific flights between Australia and the US, allowing much more direct fuel-efficient routes, really unlocking the potential of international air travel where there is no traditional terrestrial communications links or GPS. And so, by taking that legacy of safety certified and protected spectrum that we use for the commercial aviation industry and applying the same technologies with key cybersecurity protections and the really high reliability, high availability, weather resilience of our satellite communications in the L-band, using that for command and control to provide telemetry and critical communications to these uncrewed aircraft as well. It really leverages what we have been doing for many years, what we have been known for, and the experience that we have in that industry and being able to open up new modes of aviation transportation.
Excellent. And in terms of the ecosystem as well, whether it's talking about the platforms, the aircraft, the hybrid aircraft as well, even autonomous and unmanned as well, they all require that secure, continuous, high reliability data links. So how are you helping them to meet these operational demands, especially as we're talking about the commercial operations launching soon as well as what some of the companies are saying. So could you share a little bit more on that, please?
Sure. Well, we're working really closely with a wide range of uncrewed aerial vehicle manufacturers and ecosystem providers, from operators to manufacturers to vertiports to the entire ecosystem of uncrewed traffic management. These uncrewed aircraft, autonomous aircraft, need to fly into controlled airspace. They need to be able to aviate, to navigate, and to communicate. And that communication piece is a critical component of the integration of these new platforms into controlled airspace. And so by working with these manufacturers, working with the new vehicle types, demonstrating the capability, showing the capability of the hardware as well as the airtime in the service, and applying that back into the regulatory framework, working with international bodies like ICAO and RTCA, EuroK and FAA, we're able to take real-world data and experience and apply that to what the regulatory framework needs to look like, from a minimum aviation system performance standards, minimum operational performance standards.
Perfect. I guess once we talked about the passenger aircraft, I think it's also important to focus on autonomous, semi-autonomous operations as well. So what role then will satellite connectivity play in enabling those operations, especially in congested urban environments?
Yeah, it's really a critical component of it. If you look at the way that the frameworks are being built up today, there's a key component of what we call multi-link. There's no single communications link that's going to provide the reliability and nothing is 100%. But when you have multiple high reliability, high availability, low latency links that combine and provide that redundancy, that is what provides the integrity of the operation. So being able to communicate with this uncrewed vehicle or remotely piloted vehicle, you have a pilot on the ground that needs to be able to communicate and provide the commands and telemetry back from this vehicle and ensure that it's operating safely within this airspace. So being able to provide that link to allow it to operate as if it's a crewed vehicle and integrate seamlessly with other crewed traffic in that same airspace, I think is going to be really critical.
No, thank you for that, Joel, as well. And if I could go back to the company as well, I mean, it's been a busy 2025, I imagine, as well. Are you able to share a little bit more with our audience about what you've been up to recently? Any sort of key highlights that you'd like to share of what you've been working on?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, we've been working with, say, manufacturers on pretty much every continent except Antarctica.
Yeah.
Here in the Middle East, in Europe, in Asia Pacific and India, a lot of really exciting things going on there, and obviously in the US as well, a lot of really exciting entrants, both from I'd say the full range of advanced air mobility. You think the urban air mobility and passenger vehicles, autonomous cargo aircraft, and really doing a lot of testing, a lot of integration with the platforms. We've taken the traditional satellite terminal and antenna that we've used very successfully for commercial aircraft and shrunk that down to something very, very small, providing pretty high bandwidth for these types of vehicles and showing what that capability is for these vehicles. We're also really excited about where our L-band roadmap is going. About 3 months ago, in mid-September, we announced the intention to form a new infrastructure company called Equitas, looking at non-geostationary orbit for L-band, looking at very high bandwidth, low latency, high capacity, very cost-effective communications with the resilience and reliability of that L-band spectrum. And so we're really excited about where this can go in the future, taking what we have today, adding the non-geostationary on top of our geostationary, and looking at multi-orbit communications with really high bandwidth, high capacity that can really support where we think this industry is going.
Awesome. No, thank you very much for that. Really interesting insights too. And if I could sort of take one hat off and put another hat on in regards to commercial aviation, because I think this is a really interesting point I'd love to get your thoughts on as well, please, is how then are you preparing for the rapidly increasing bandwidth that's required from not just airlines, but passengers over the next decade? Passenger demands have changed as well. How would you say that's looking?
Well, I think, Viasat is really the only satellite communications provider that has both broadband for the passengers with our Ka network and narrowband, which has not as high bandwidth, but has very, very high reliability and resiliency in all types of weather. So we can really support the full nose to tail of commercial aviation, from safety communications that are certified by ICAO and international bodies for those safety air traffic control communications. In oceanic and remote airspace, we're now moving this into continental airspace to supplement traditional VHF networks in continental airspace. That is really going to be critical to deal with the doubling of air traffic that's projected over the next 20 years. You then look at beyond safety and look at operational data. We see just an explosion of data coming off of these new aircraft, generating terabytes of data every day, right? The things that you can do with that, with the advances in artificial intelligence, but also with the complexity of these new aircraft and engine designs, the ability to get all of this sensor data off of the aircraft in near real time and monitor the health of that aircraft, but then also provide things like weather updates and turbulence forecasts and all types of operational efficiency data for the pilots that help them improve the situational awareness and fly more efficiently. And then with our KA network, being able to provide high bandwidth, high availability, global coverage for the passengers in the back of the airplane as well, really does cover that nose to tail capability.
Brilliant. No, thank you very much for that. And I guess the final question for me, really, Joel, as well, has been really good insight, is as the shift starts to change as well, have you seen any shifts in customer expectations or even operator requirements which are influencing your roadmap as well? Because it must be lists is endless, I imagine. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting time as we fully recovered from COVID, from the pandemic, and traffic volumes are really increasing. You also have a much more heightened awareness of the environmental impact of flying and a much bigger focus on flying sustainably. How do we accommodate the explosion in air traffic in a safe and efficient way? And that's critical, right? We're not going to compromise safety. And how do we do that efficiently and sustainably in this industry? And so I think there's a very big focus on that. But the amount of data that's available, airlines are really just starting to get their hands on and understand what it can mean from an operational efficiency perspective. And so we're really excited about some of the new things that we're seeing out there in the market, from flight path optimization to weather updates to turbulence avoidance. The improvements in the ability to fly efficiently while maintaining that safety in a high traffic environment where we really want to reduce the delays and cancellations that's coming from any type of abnormal operation, whether that's weather or drone incursions at airports or things like that. Any of this kind of stuff just risks having that cascading effect. And so the more that we can do to provide operational efficiency and flexibility to these airlines, we're seeing a really powerful impact from that.
Excellent stuff. Well, Joel, really appreciate your insights as always. Enjoy the rest of the air show as well, and thank you so much for taking time to talk to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.